Okay guys, for reasons I won't go into, I've been out of the political loop for 3 or 4 days, so not sure what's been happening, but I did notice last night when I returned and started to catch up, if you like, on what was happening in the world of Restore Britain. I saw that there was a bit of drama, if you like, over a video that Landeur made. Yeah, so I thought I'd better check it out. Before I watched it, I saw also that Vindicator Strikes Back made a video having a pop at Landeur. And this, of course, concerns me. I don't like to see patriotic sites, patriotic channels falling out. We've got a big problem, and we shouldn't really be divided at this time. But for Vindicator to take a pop, I thought it must be serious, so I'd better check up and look at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through Landeur's video now, stop it where I think necessary, and give my take as we go through it. Then, after that is done, I'll then go and watch Vindicator's video, which I understand is 2 hours long. So I'll go and check that out after this video is produced and see how different my opinion and my take is on the situation. I'm not actually going to attack any of those individuals. I believe even if we have differences, so long as we broadly agree on the goals of what we want from Restore Britain, then I'll bite the bullet on my personal feelings and go along with it. So then, Landeur, what have you got to say for yourself?
Well, this is not a video I particularly wanted to make because I'm going to spend a portion of it criticizing Rupert Lowe. Now, before you click off this video and hit the dislike button on your way out, I have been one of the most staunch defenders of Rupert Lowe. And you can verify that by going back through my channel and looking at the videos I've posted. I defended him when he was in reform, and there was a spat between him and Farage. I defended him when he was kicked out. I defended him when there was a kerfuffle over his dog, Cromwell. I defended him when he decided to create a party. Look, the point I'm trying to get at is I do not accept, and I will not listen to people posting saying that I'm just trying to stir the pot, okay? I've defended this guy for the last 2 years, and I still support Restore Britain because I think that at present they are our best vehicle at getting change in this country. However,
okay, so far I can accept what Landeur said, and I can verify that what he said about being a staunch supporter of Restore and Rupert Lowe in the past is 100% true. However, times and circumstances can change. I myself, I'm a little bit concerned about some of the Zionists who appear to be very close to Rupert Lowe. But that's not why we carry on, Landeur. Oh dear, it's 70 minutes. This is going to be a long one, guys, if we're going to do it justice.
If the leadership are making some mistakes, some unforced errors, doing and saying things which are at best bizarre and at worst counterproductive, then I think we have a duty and a responsibility to point that out and talk about it. So,
total agreement with that so far. I think we're all agreed there, and that's 1 minute and 13 in of a 23-minute video. Carry on, Landeur.
That's what I'm going to do in this video, and it's going to make some people uncomfortable, especially my audience, because you know how fervently I've defended Rupert Lowe in the past. But look, these comments, these unforced errors, we have to talk about it now. I've kind of been ignoring it for the last couple of weeks, hoping that there wouldn't be more of them, and it appears that there are going to be. So let's dive into it. So the first of these errors happened about a week ago when Rupert went onto a podcast with Brett Weinstein, and he said, I don't know if I can play the clip because I might get a copyright strike, but he said, and this was his exact wording,
test far right, sort of, ethno-nationalist or neo-Nazism.
And that really frustrated me, and it frustrated a lot of people online, actually, because clearly what
I think Landeur's made his first mistake there. I think that video clip was taken out of context and not understanding, if you like, Rupert's generation. But let him carry on. Let him carry on. But I think that one is a mistake.
He's doing there is he's equating ethno-nationalism, English ethno-nationalism, with neo-Nazism, which is absurd, right? It doesn't even make sense to say that ethno-nationalism and neo-Nazism are the same thing. And you can prove that very quickly by just observing that there are Jewish ethno-nationalists for Israel, people who want Israel to be the Jewish homeland and a sort of Jewish ethno-state where Jews are protected and safe and secure. Are they neo-Nazis? Are those Jewish nationalists neo-Nazis? Of course not. So comparing ethno-nationalism and neo-Nazism in that sloppy, lazy kind of way is obviously false, but also extremely unfair to English people, English patriots, who want England to remain a majority English country. So that was just an unforced error. Very, very sloppy, not very politically savvy, given that most of those English ethno-nationalists are supporting Restore Britain, so you're kind of just attacking your own supporters. But it was explained away, not by Rupert himself, but by people around him, that, you know, Rupert is just of a different generation, and to him, when he thinks of ethno-nationalism, he's thinking about jackboots and brown shirts and just going around beating up foreigners on the street, and that's what he's saying he detests. So I thought, okay.
Okay, I can accept what Landeur is saying there, and I understand it. Yeah, so far it seems to be a bit of a misunderstanding. But then again, I don't know what else Rupert Lowe has said to trigger Landeur. So far, I see no reason why nationalists should fall out over this. So far, 3 minutes 29 in. Carry on.
Well, look, maybe there's just a misunderstanding. You know, he doesn't understand the terms exactly and what they mean today, and how people feel about those terms. And so perhaps the term ethno-nationalist specifically, not neo-Nazi, I'm not defending that. So maybe he just doesn't understand exactly that term. Maybe he doesn't exactly understand who his base are. And this is just a blunder. So I thought, right, I'm just going to have to get over it, move on. It was a slip up. Fast forward a couple of days after that
Right. So far, I can follow Landeur's logic perfectly. Yeah, a slip up. I've made the same defense for Rupert myself, not understanding what a nationalist is.
Interview, and Rupert does another one, this time with Patrick Bet-Davies. And he's talking about King Charles hosting the Eid celebrations in Windsor Castle. And then Rupert says something very bizarre. He says, I don't have a problem with multiculturalism as long as they integrate. And so a few days after that last interview, you've now got the super-based right-wing Rupert Lowe coming out and saying he doesn't have a problem with multiculturalism. And everyone's like, what the hell? What's going on? Give me a break. Come on, there's no way he doesn't understand this. And look, I don't even think that what Rupert said actually makes sense. He said, I don't have a problem with multiculturalism as long as people integrate. Well, what does that even mean? Does that mean that the foreigners who come here integrate into our culture? Well, that's not multiculturalism then, is it? If they surrender their own culture from their homelands and integrate into ours, then that wouldn't be multiculturalism anyway. That would be monoculturalism, but whatever. I also just don't even think that that's realistically possible anymore. I don't think that there is enough of a dominant culture left in this country, and the reason for that is that the numbers of...
Okay, before we let him continue, I think, again, Landeur's misunderstood exactly what Rupert Lowe was saying. Remember, Rupert was speaking without a script. So, yeah, I think this is another misunderstanding on Landeur's part. Rupert knows that integration is never going to happen. So it's easy to say that, and it's just as easy and better just to ignore that, and that's what Landeur should have done. Carry on.
Been so great and so fast that it's completely obliterated any sort of dominant host native culture. Why? Because the dominant host native English people are being demographically replaced at an unprecedented scale and speed. And we know that this is happening, right? I mean, England today is about 65% English. If you look at births in this country, only about 50% of them are to English mothers. So if you have children today as an English couple, your children are probably going to be a minority. Depends. I mean, if you have them today, maybe not. If you have them next year, probably. So the English people are being replaced in this country. And look, that's what the ethno-nationalists have a problem with. If you...
Right. So Landeur's on the money as far as I'm concerned here with this part of it. Forget the other two incidents now with Rupert Lowe. Landeur is on message, and he understands that the ethno-nats, if you like, British nationalists like myself, understand are just as concerned as he is. He understands it. Carry on.
You don't want the English people to become a minority in England, if you think that the English ethnic group have a right to stay the majority of people in the land, the nation, England, then you are an ethno-nationalist of sorts. Ethnic group, English, nationalism, England, right? So I think the vast majority of people hold some degree of sympathy with ethno-nationalist ideas. I certainly do. I don't want...
Right. And I'm in agreement with him there. I hold the same views as Landeur. Landeur is a former veteran. He's, I believe, an army officer. Yeah, he served overseas. Some people say he's privileged. I don't know, accidents of birth. But him and I probably share the same beliefs and want the same things for this country, our country.
Me or my children to become a minority in their own homeland. Why would I? That just doesn't even make sense. No, I'm not comfortable with that. Yes, I do oppose that. So at this point I was thinking, well, should I make a video about this? You know, calling out some of these weird comments. And I thought, no, I'll let the dust settle, because at the end of the day, I still trust Rupert, although that trust is being tested on the daily. And I also have the utmost trust in the younger guys in his team. And I'm talking about Charlie Downs, Harrison Pipp, Lewis Brackpool, Maria, really good people, okay?
Okay, for me that's reassuring about the younger guys. That is reassuring. And yes, he has got some, so he's got some doubts about Rupert Lowe. It's the duty of all nationalists to, if you like, hold Rupert's feet to the fire and make sure he sticks to what he's promised to deliver. Millions must go. All must go. Yeah. So I'm with Landeur so far. Nothing has been said to convince me to change my opinion of Rupert Lowe. Although I did say I have my doubts about the Zionists in the organisation, and I think Restore Britain should really clarify their situation with regards to the Zionists. A man cannot serve two masters. It's either the United Kingdom or it's Israel. It can't be both.
So I trust them. The party is bigger than just one man. Let's just see where this goes. Until...
And yes, the cause and the movement is bigger than one man. Yeah, Rupert Lowe's done a great job up until now. He's done it with everything he's done, with the creation of the movement, with his national inquiry, with the setting up of Restore Britain. So far, Rupert deserves our support.
Yesterday, we got this from Tom Harwood of GB News. He posted, I chatted with Rupert Lowe last night at the Spectator party. Interestingly, he said he detests ethno-nationalism and has had to stamp on the young ethno-nationalists in his party. And then someone commented saying, well, did Rupert say who he had stamped on? And the answer apparently was Charlie Downs. Now, look, I don't know if this is true. I like GB News for the most part.
Okay, we now know that that wasn't true. It was a lie by Tom Harwood, a notorious troublemaker divider. Yeah, so perhaps Landeur should have checked his resources a bit more deeply, or waited a day until that statement had been clarified or verified as being genuine. Instead, it turned out that it was a lie. Carry on. And,
okay, because I like some of the presenters, Ben Leo, Patrick Christis. I think they're good. And I think the GB News Channel in general is a net positive for the country, but we have to be realistic. They are very pro-reform. They don't really like Restore very much. And so could Tom Harwood be shit-stirring? Yes, certainly possible. The problem is, it's the exact same thing that Rupert had said about 10 days prior. Oh, excuse me. And at any point, Rupert could go on video or go on Twitter and just say, Tom Harwood is lying. That conversation never happened. And that hasn't happened, right? And I would think...
Right. Whether that has happened or not at this moment in time, I don't know. But Rupert, I'm guessing, is a very, very busy guy. Yeah. He doesn't have a chance. He may not even be well aware of what Tom Harwood said. Yeah, he may well not be aware of it, or his advisors, those young bucks surrounding him, may have thought, well, this is a big nothing burger. Rupert's got enough on his plate. He doesn't need to be concerned with this. Yeah, it's trivial.
That if it was completely false, you would want to do that, because Tom Harwood is saying that there's an internal dispute in the party and that Rupert is having to reprimand Charlie Downs. Now, if that's completely false and that conversation had never happened, as I say, you would expect that Rupert would want to shut that rumour down straight away because it doesn't look good, it doesn't reflect well on the party. But no, nothing, right? So ordinarily, I would be inclined to not believe Tom Harwood, but...
Yeah, we'll find out what the but is in a moment. At this moment in time, I think if Rupert Lowe should want to concern himself with the behaviour of anyone, it should be Carl Benjamin of the Lotus Eaters. Because Carl's just gone so far up his own arse, he's got lost, hasn't he? He's started to believe that he's something special, that he's become astounded and amazed at his own brilliance and how only he and he alone can see a clear path to the way forward. I mean, I have to be honest, after watching Carl Benjamin's latest video, I was tempted to go join the Socialist Workers' Party just to get rid of Carl Benjamin. No, Carl dropped the ball there. The Lotus Eaters, early days, they were all full of themselves, puffed up little popinjays, I thought, so impressed by their own brilliance that they couldn't see what they were doing to themselves or to their image. And Carl's forgotten that. Somebody should walk around behind him and tell him just who he is. Because if he thinks I'm nobody, I think I'm a better man than Carl Benjamin. I think I've done more for this country than Carl Benjamin has ever done or will ever do. But carry on, Landeur.
There are other circumstances at play. You guys are going to have to make your own mind up. As I say, it's very similar to what he was saying a few days before on a podcast. So, yeah. There's another point I wanted to bring up here as well, and it's kind of a minor point, but why are you at the Spectator Garden Party? Because I very clearly remember a year ago, Rupert replying to a journalist saying that he wasn't interested in going to their journo booze-ups in London, and yet fast forward a year and here we are. You're there. So why? What's changed? It's not like...
Now, Landeur's a bright guy, right? He should know why he's went to that party. Post-poll. Well, I haven't heard Landeur really say anything to wind me up yet. So he's got his doubts and his reservations, but let's move on.
If they're giving you positive press coverage, right? The Spectator have written all sorts of negative articles about Restore Britain.
Right. Why did Rupert go to that party? I think as a military man, Landeur would have known that. Go into the lion's den, gather information, speak to people, may be able to swing them around to his way of thinking. See who's got the courage to say to his face what they say behind his back. Yeah, just going into the lion's den. I can't fault Rupert for that. Yeah, I think that's a good tactical move, actually, Landeur. I'm surprised you don't see it that way. Let's move on.
Owner of the Telegraph was there as well, and he's also written plenty of, not him personally, but the Telegraph have written plenty of negative stories about Restore Britain. So it's not like these people like you, or they respect you, or they're even in any way helpful to the party. So what are you doing there? Why are you rubbing shoulders with Morgan McSweeney, Keir Starmer's previous chief of staff? Look, we're in such a crazy situation in this country where politics is not a game. It is not a game. You can't be rubbing shoulders with the enemy at this point. Like, if you truly believe that the country is on the precipice of failure, which Rupert claims to, then why are you going to booze-ups with the same people who have been the architects of this impending doom? It just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Look, maybe in the comments someone wants to say, well, actually he has to do it for this reason and this reason. Fine, whatever.
I've just explained why it makes sense, Landeur. You say it doesn't make sense. No, it just doesn't make sense to you, my friend. That's all. Have another think about it.
It wouldn't be me, okay? That's all I'm saying. I find it very, very bizarre that he was even there in the first place. Now, you might be wondering why I care about this so much, and there are two reasons. First of all, because I know that a significant chunk of the Restore Britain base, and I don't know what the number is, but it's a significant portion. It's not all of them. They probably think they're more than they are, and Rupert probably thinks they're less than they are. But let's say it's 15, 20%, whatever. They are ethno-nationalists, okay? And I'm going to be honest, yeah, I'm one of them. Not in the same sense as someone like Steve Laws. I don't believe in total remigration. You know, I'm not saying every single foreigner has to leave the country, right?
And neither does Steve Laws. Steve Laws is, like myself, call me an ethno-nationalist. I prefer British nationalist. I'm pragmatic. I'd like to see a 100% white country. But I'm a pragmatic, a realist. That's not going to happen. So I'd be happy to settle for 90%. I'd prefer 95 to 97%, and maybe over time we could achieve that. But for now, I'll just be happy to see foreign criminals deported, illegal migrants deported. That's a start in the right direction. That's really starting to shift the Overton window. Once you've started getting rid of those and those are gone, then you can start on the others. Yeah. So, yeah. So I'll go along with what Steve Laws is saying. He knows that it's impossible to achieve that straight away from the off. But carry on. But Landeur is still on the same side as that I'm on so far.
But do I believe that it's acceptable for the English to become a minority in England? No, absolutely not. And so at least to that extent, I am an ethno-nationalist. But I would go further and I would actually say we need to be a supermajority in this country, which is totally the norm. Like, anyone you ask in the world would say the same thing about their own country. My group needs to be the supermajority, right? We can have a little bit of immigration. I mean, we've now had far too much. We can't have any more. But if you're talking about a country like Japan, they might say, look, yeah, we could have a couple of thousand people come here every year to fill very specific roles, but the Japanese must always maintain their majority over Japan. No one would bat an eyelid at that. Everyone would be like, yeah, of course, right? Because if the Japanese people became 50% of Japan, would it still be Japan? No, arguably not. So that's how I feel about it. So I consider myself an ethno-nationalist.
Right. I have to be honest, if this was the first video I'd ever seen of Landeur, I'd now be subscribing to him because I like what he's saying. I questioned some of his earlier statements or his deductions. Deductions? Deducing? About his earlier takes on what Rupert Lowe had said. I'd question some of that, but overall I'd be subscribing to him if it was the first time I'd seen him.
I think England should be at least 90% English. I think, you know, most people who support Restore probably would agree with that statement, right? And so I just think when you're attacking your own base like that, saying, it's not even just saying like, oh, this isn't the party position. You're saying I detest them. I detest those people. I just don't get it, man. It's stupid. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah,
Okay, it doesn't make any sense to Landeur because he doesn't understand the way that Rupert Lowe thinks. Perhaps because I'm nearer to Rupert Lowe's age, I think I understand what Rupert Lowe is thinking and why he thinks the way he does. The truth of it is, I've probably got far more knowledge of the events that took place during the Second World War and what led up to the Second World War than Rupert does, yeah. Perhaps if someone was to educate him as to the truth and the origins of the Second World War, he wouldn't be so quick to conflate nationalism with Nazis. I think Landeur understands the origins of the Second World War all too well. But because he understands it, he's making the assumption that someone like Rupert Lowe, not a professional politician, should understand it also. But that's my take on it. What's yours? Tell me in the comments. Carry on.
I can only assume, right, that the pressure from the media articles, from the Daily Mail especially, they were pumping out tons of articles against Restore Britain, calling them Nazis every day. I can only assume that this pressure has actually got to Rupert somehow, or pressure from his friends, his private friends, or whatever it might be. And so he's just sort of caved a little bit, and he's pushing back to the left, and he's saying, you know, he's denouncing ordinary English people who are worried about the future of their country and their children. And I hate to see it. And you've got to think as well, if you are caving at this point from media pressure, what do you think the media pressure is going to be like if you become the Prime Minister and you start doing what you said you were going to do and you start deporting hundreds of thousands and millions of people? The media pressure is going to be absolutely insane. Things will go wrong at some point in the same way they did in America, and the media will go into overdrive. There'll be a story. If you try and deport, 2 or 3 million people, at some point something is going to go wrong and somebody is going to get hurt.
There's people being hurt already, Landeur. It's still going on now. Young girls are still being abused. Young men are still dying. Young men, old age pensioners even, all the British people are suffering, are being hurt now, Landeur. Also, so far I've seen no evidence that Rupert Lowe is caving in to the media. No evidence at all. You can't say that just based on the few bits of information that you've provided, all of which is questionable, shall we say. Carry on, though.
We need someone, and I've always praised Rupert for his I don't care attitude, but we need someone who really actually embodies it, and they will just say, no, this is the task I was elected to achieve. We're going to press on with it. That's very tragic. It's very sad that that's happened. We'll look into why it happened. We'll try and mitigate it in the future, but we're going to keep going with the task. You need someone who's not going to bow to the pressure. And so if I see Rupert bowing now, I get very nervous. And that's why I'm talking about this.
But Landeur, you haven't shown no real evidence to suggest that Rupert is bowing in any shape or form. He's still doing what he always said he was doing from the start. He doesn't care. Millions must go. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt us all. It's going to hurt the nation. It's going to be financial costs, even physical costs. Some of these people aren't going to leave voluntarily. They're just not. I see the Home Office said the other day, were bragging that they were going to deport, 45,000 people over the next 10 years. Huh? 10 years? We haven't got 10 months. Carry on, Landeur. I'm not seeing a malicious attack on Rupert or Restore, really. As for leaders, well, the movement is bigger than one man, and there are younger men waiting in the ranks. Rupert will know when it's time to step down and hand over to someone a bit more proactive, gung-ho, and ruthless enough to do what needs to be done. Mind you, I'm older than Rupert, and I'm ruthless enough to do it.
Even though it makes me very uncomfortable, and I would prefer that everything was rosy and running on rails like it was straight after the Makerfield by-election. But hey, here we are. I will just add this. I think that Rupert Lowe has fallen victim of his own individualistic mindset. And I don't actually blame him for this because I think it comes very naturally to British people. But you cannot apply that individualistic mindset to the nation state. It doesn't work. And I'll explain. Imagine that I meet a guy from the Congo, right? So I don't really understand much about the Congo. I might be quite wary when I meet him at first because, you know, what do I know about the Congo? What do I know about this person? Nothing. But as we get talking, it turns out we've got loads in common. He's got a great degree. He's got a great job. Cool. Happy days. I like that guy, right? So I've met you as an individual. Sounds like you're doing great. Awesome. Happy.
From the Congo, sub-Saharan, brilliant mind. Okay, Landeur. Okay.
Do I hate you? Of course not, right? You cannot apply that same mindset when you're thinking about the nation state. It simply doesn't work for a bunch of reasons. First of all, you can't individually vet every foreigner in the country to work out if they actually hold the right values and if they're productive, etc., etc. There are some shortcuts you can take, right? You know, if they're on welfare or if they're serial criminals, then yeah, that's a pretty big indicator that they don't fit in here. But those people should already have been deported long ago anyway. The other thing is that if you genuinely think that as long as someone is upstanding and law-abiding and hard-working, they should be able to stay in Britain, well, that just leads to the destruction of your own country if you follow that ideal through. And here's why. Take the population of India, 1.5 billion people. I think it's fair to assume, right, in India, that at least 5% of those people are hardworking, law-abiding, upstanding, have a good job, right? It's probably higher than 5%, but let's say 5%. If you truly believe that anyone who meets that criteria should be able to stay in Britain, well, then why aren't you opening the doors to 75 million Indians who meet that criteria? I mean, it could be 20%, right? So you could be looking at 300 million Indians that, you know, on your beliefs that as long as foreigners are hardworking and pay taxes and don't break the law, they should definitely be able to stay in Britain. On those beliefs, you're probably going to find that there's 1 billion people in the world who are eligible to come to Britain. But if that makes you uncomfortable, opening the doors to everyone from anywhere, as long as they don't break the law and pay taxes, if that makes you uncomfortable, it's probably because you don't want to see your country ethnically destroyed.
Well, he's right, isn't he? He's right there. He's 100% right. Yeah, finding it difficult. Well, I'm not here to disagree with him. I'm just here to listen to what he says. But I like what he's saying so far. Carry on, Paul.
You understand that there are good people, you know, in different parts of the world, and that's fine. But deep down, you know, because it's completely natural, that England should be the homeland of the English. I mean, it simply is, right? It's our ancestral homeland. Our ancestors built it. They built it for us. They didn't fight wars. They didn't build monuments so that it could be opened up in this weird globalist utopia to everyone from anywhere and turn the country into a kind of global soup kitchen. It's not why our ancestors built the country. It's not why it was bequeathed to us, and it's not what we should be passing on to future generations. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a little bit of a rant. The very last thing I'll say is this.
What he said made perfect sense to me. I'm sure like-minded people, patriotic people would agree with everything that Landeur just said.
I'm not in this video suggesting that Rupert Lowe should randomly do a U-turn and say, oh, you know what, I am actually an ethno-nationalist. No, he should have avoided the term altogether from the outset. Now, if you go and watch that Brett Weinstein interview, Brett himself didn't bring it up. Rupert was doing one of his traditional sort of long, winding answers to a question, and he just sort of dropped in there that he hates ethno-nationalists. And it's almost to me like he just wanted to get that point across. So he kind of...
That's to you. That's to you. You should know when you're speaking sort of off the cuff, the way that you're doing now, Landeur, unless you've got a prepared script I can't see. I speak off the cuff, and sometimes I think, I could have phrased that better. I should have used those words, not these words. Yeah, it's easily done. Take it from someone who knows.
I just wormed it into an answer. It was a bit weird. But I'm not suggesting that Rupert goes out there and suddenly says, actually, I'm an ethno-nationalist, blah, blah, blah. He should just avoid the term altogether, right? That is the most obvious thing to do. And instead, what he should do is speak to the people who are not, you know, the most hardened ethno-nationalists, the every single foreigner has to leave. Speak to the people who have concerns about demographics, about the changes that they are seeing in their towns and cities, and try and explain to them that you understand what needs to be happening. Now, I made a post yesterday. It took me 60 seconds, right, to type this out, and I'm not kidding. I'll put it on the screen. I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was basically along the lines of, you know, oh, we're not an ethno-nationalist party, but we do understand the concerns that people have around demographics, around mass immigration, the results that they've seen from it, which is lower wages, worse results for white pupils in schools, and obviously the grooming gangs and everything else. And so, as a party, we will seek to reverse the worst excesses of mass immigration, right? So you're speaking to those people, you are hearing their concerns. You can just avoid the word ethno-nationalism altogether if you want to, right? Who cares? Nobody forced you to bring that up. Nobody specifically grilled you on that topic, on that word. But you could speak to the people and let them know that you understand their concerns, why they're terrified of the changes they're seeing in the country, and promise to do something about it. I mean, like I said, that took me 60 seconds to write. It's so easy, I think, to get the political messaging right.
I just read that statement post that Landeur made over on X. Yeah, it's very good, very good. Rupert could do that. He could also address the problem of Zionism. There's lots of similar questions like that, I should imagine. But yeah, basically that's good. So far, carry on, Landeur.
I usually don't do it because I don't think too much about the things I post. I post a lot, you know, and I just don't give it too much thought, as I said. But if you really do think about, you know, what's a message that's going to resonate well, and that I also believe, that's a very important point, then there you go. It's not hard. 60 seconds that took me. And I do believe that Rupert wants to reverse the worst excesses of mass immigration, right? I do believe that. So this is just not hard. It's not hard to get this stuff right. Anyway, sorry, this video is a bit ad hoc. Usually I prepare these things a little bit better. But yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. Like I said, I'm not abandoning Restore Britain at this point. I still have a ton of respect for Rupert. You know, the younger guys who are in the party are fantastic. None of them have been kicked out. I don't know if Charlie Downs has been stamped on. I don't know if that's true or not. I certainly hope not, because I think Charlie's fantastic. And yeah, I'll leave it there. I know some people are not going to like this video. It's probably not going to do very well because it's going to get 1 billion dislikes straight away. But we have to confront these things head on. We have to talk about these things. Maybe Rupert will watch this video. I don't know. We'll see. But that's just how I feel about it, right? I just think there are unforced errors here, creating problems where there didn't need to be any. Ignore the media headlines. You know, it's just noise. And the people who are writing those headlines, they, unlike me, who's making this video, right? I want you to succeed. The people who are writing those headlines want to drag you down, and you're giving them, not me, you are giving them what they want, because you're causing this internal rift within the party that doesn't really need to be there. We know that you are not some hardened ethno-nationalist, right? We understand that. And everyone was okay with you just sort of ignoring the topic. But at the point at which you come out and say you detest people like me for not wanting to become a minority in my homeland, that's not going to work. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's effectively the end of the video. Well, what's my take on it? I think I'm in broad agreement with what Landeur's said there regards to the state of the country, what is best for the country and what Rupert Lowe should do. The problems I have with the video is the early parts of it, where he assumes is a bad thing to do. He assumes that he can know what Rupert Lowe is thinking or what Rupert Lowe feels, and there was no evidence of that. He did also say, Landeur, about division, didn't he? Well, videos like that, Landeur, this one that I've just reviewed, it is, if you like, a bit divisive. We've seen it cause division, haven't we, between people who perhaps haven't watched or listened to you as closely as I have on this occasion. Yeah. Now, what's my take from the art? Yeah, I'll continue to follow Landeur. I think he still supports Restore Britain. He still supports Rupert Lowe. So for now, the message from me is, aim high, vote low, restore Britain. Rupert Lowe is the last great white hope. If we are wrong, well, we're already up shit creek without a paddle. So I don't think it's going to make any difference. What can nationalists do? Ethno-nationalists do? I can tell you what they should do, what they must do, is to join Restore Britain, become active in the branches and groups, become organisers, election agents, press agents, all official positions within the group, take them over, control them, and control the party from the bottom up. Don't listen to people like Carl Benjamin. In fact, unsubscribe from him. Yeah. I have. Watch his last video to see what he thinks of you if you're an ethno-nat or a British nationalist or an English nationalist. He hasn't got no time for you. He thinks you've done your bit. You were the vanguard, now get out of the way and leave it to people like him. Fuck off, Carl Benjamin. You've been listening to Paul Morris, The Green Arrow.